and mine is rolling down.
Good time.
We should probably go to like 50, like or 51,
Yeah.
because we said back for a little more to be done by 9:30 with all of them.
That's true.
Oh, shoot.
All right.
So you want me to call time at?
So 50-ish should be the end. And then whatever you want from there.
Yeah, give me like a 5 minute and then a 1 minute,
Gotcha.
if you will. Hello.
Hi.
How's it going?
Going all right? How are you?
Good. Welcome
Thanks.
to my office. My name is Joseph. I'm your counselor today.
Okay.
First and foremost, I'd like to get a couple things out of the way before we begin our session.
Okay.
One of them being a permission to record, which essentially is just stating that you, the client, are giving me permission to record the session interview, understanding that only me and the instructor will be viewing the video, which will be erased after a certain amount of time. So, while you're signing that, I will begin the second phase of our paperwork. That being, as part of our work here today, if I hear anything or a topic is approached where there's a vulnerable population experiencing abuse, or there's anything happening, I am a mandated reporter, and I am required by law, and as a therapist, as a counselor, to note these things and notify the authorities. So, that being said, just so you know, if something like that gets brought up, I am mandated to report that. Just so you know. For example, if there's abuse of a child, an elder, plans to commit a crime, that kind of thing, that's something that I'm required to report. So, that being said, welcome today.
Thank you.
Feel free to get comfortable. We're going to be here for about half an hour. I like to begin the session by just taking a deep breath and getting comfortable. You're welcome to join me in that. If not, that's totally up to you. But I'm going to begin by taking a deep breath and saying, welcome.
Welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I am kind of just working with, I guess I'm trying to like keep in mind goals that I have like in my life as I'm working through them. Like, so like more long-term things. Sometimes if I do something, then like in the midst of it, you forget, you know? Anyway, for example, so I started this job, and it's a while ago, and it's great. I really love it. And then you have like that new, I don't know, wonderfulness about it, you know?
Kind of excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there can be a point where if like you don't remain, that I've noticed in my past, if like I don't remain aware of that, then it can like shift and then like slowly just become this like monster that you just despise, you know? So I had like I recognized that I had my first moment at work where I wasn't being, I don't know, completely open and responding to the residents at my work in the way that like I know is best, and I kind of like let my emotions get the better of me. I guess that's what it is, you know? So
So you're feeling like kind of the excitement of the beginning of your job is turning into drudgery. Am I correct in that?
I guess like what I'm saying is that's what could happen, like based on things, the way things have gone in the past for me. Like I know that that's where it could go, and because I recognize that, I don't want it to go there. And this was like the first event that was like different from just like the excitement and newness, you know? Kind of like when you get comfortable somewhere, or if you like start dating someone and then, you know, you get to know them a little while and then, I don't know, quirks or whatever start to come out, you know?
The
Because you're more
reality-
comfortable in the situation. So, yeah. Does that make sense?
What I'm hearing is that there are these things happening in your life that start off at this point where they're very exciting and new, and there's these possibilities that are there, and then there's this, it seems there's this very clear point for you where there is a separation between the newness and excitement of a situation and the total or lack of joy in it. It seems like you know where that point lies.
Yeah, I think it's not so much about being like one point that's the end all be all, but it's like there's a point that marks the beginning of this like steady transition. And I think what I'm just realizing that kind of like stems from is like I have a tendency to move around a lot and not like remain in one place, like with one set of relationships, with one job, you know, and so I just want to be better in that area, you know?
You want to be better and more responsible with the things that you're taking on, or you want to be better in your presence while you're going through these things?
I guess I just want to be better. It's like at long-term coping or like
Commitments, even.
yeah, commitment. There we go. That's the money word. Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
So it sounds to me like you are aware that there are aspects of your life that are, I feel like maybe in a way asking you to commit. Is that correct? Am I correct in that assumption?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that just if you just like the natural progression of life is like kind of just like geared towards commitment, just like society is like that, like keep going, like do all this stuff and whatever, and it's not about like transplanting. That's not as mainstream and an accepted kind of.
But I am hearing that you want to get better at showing up and committing yourself to these things.
Yeah, I feel like it's a character flaw that I have, and I feel like there is a multitude of there's a lot of evidence for that, which I'm aware of, and I want to work at getting better at that, you know?
Getting better at that.
Yeah. Just want, I don't know. I guess I feel it's kind of like part of growing up, kind of, you know? Just not running away from your problems. And, I mean, that's not what I'm doing. That's not like what I was doing in this moment at my job, you know, but it's all speaking to like bigger things, bigger issues that kind of just stem back to the fact that just trying to figure out how to grow up.
So you're aware of the pattern.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, patterns.
Also coming and keeping you take a hunch about how she feels.
How does it?
Take a hunch.
Hmm,
I'm wondering if
I'm wondering if there's a theme to these patterns that you're experiencing, and your identity. If there's a correlation between you committing to something and fearing losing yourself in that process.
I don't think so. Maybe partly, but I think that I have a pretty good I don't know what the word is. I have a pretty good idea of like who I am, and like when like all these patterns occur and stuff, like I'm still the same, or I still have the same like core beliefs, and like I feel pretty comfortable with like who I am. I think it's more just like the actions of, I like have this idea like what it means to be an adult, you know, and or maybe I don't have an idea, but you know, society gives you this idea, and then you kind of like look at that and try to figure out how it goes for you, you know.
So you have this pressure from society in your life to meet these certain demands, and then there's also your desires about what you want to be doing, kind of conflicting.
Yeah, maybe, so with like the identity thing you were saying, maybe it's like with like coming to terms with like what the identity or like the identity of this adult self of me is, you know, and it doesn't necessarily have to be night and day difference from who I am now, you know, it's just there are some things that I recognize as flaws that I want to be better at dealing with, because I think that like the adult me would be able to, you know?
So there is balance there to be attained. There
Yes.
is a possibility.
Yes. Like it exists, and I just need to show up and do the work, you know?
You need to go through it to prove to yourself that you can.
Yeah. And I need to like, I feel like in instances, like being aware of like instances like what happened at my work, then I can, because I was able to recognize it, and like I'm talking about it with you and like been processing it in my mind, then that way I can choose to like be aware and choose to react differently next time, like from like a present perspective or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It sounds to me like you're really trying to put effort into making these commitments happen and not falling back into old patterns and old ways of behaving that oftentimes are very comfortable to get back into.
Totally.
And I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're even scared about what decisions you'll make in the future, or your ability to commit where you are now. Could you tell me a little more about what you're doing for work?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'll tell you the actual event that, like, happened, like, that isn't that significance, like, for what I'm talking about. And I'm like kind of having an issue, like, I work at this state facility where the residents are they have like severe mental disabilities, and I don't know in like this kind of a situation, like what the actual protocol is for like speaking to specifically the situation, like in a pause type of way. Like if we were in a real counseling, then like that was fine, but I don't know what
So
that is.
You have
know?
your own disclosures to worry about, essentially, in talking about your work. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, but I can tell you like emotionally what happened. So the client needed something, and I was working a graveyard shift, and I don't work graveyard shifts that often, and I was feeling really tired, and it was a point in the shift where there were a lot of other patients that needed specific things from me, and what the client needed I perceived as being something that could wait, which was me passing judgment towards the client and like not treating them like from a place of respect and
Service.
yeah, and just like I wasn't being helpful in the way that I felt and responded, you know.
So that felt not very good for you, I imagine.
Yeah, it was like, well, and it's hard because so you are with them all the time, and you like develop these relationships, and there's these really interesting boundaries that you have to like remain aware of, you know.
I imagine it's probably different for every client that you have, the way that you interact with them and the feelings that you have and the things that come up. Right,
and so I guess I just became I had a lapse in judgment, and like I didn't keep in the forefront of my mind like the boundaries, and so I allowed myself to like react emotionally, and all of this of course is like just within me, like you know,
no one else knows what's going on.
Right,
there.
I just know that this is something, the way that I reacted is like out of character for how I want to be, you know, and I know that it's that the type of thing is like a starting point for that fucking cycle, you know, that spiral, as they call it.
You make one mistake and it's churning in you and you can't forget about it.
Or just like it's, yeah, like it's just easier, like it's easier to react like that way instead of like taking the high road and remaining aware and like processing how you feel, and like even though you recognize that you feel like this judgment towards them, still like treating the client like from a place of understanding and like, you know, so
it's hard to step out of yourself and see the work that you're doing where you are without getting emotionally involved.
well, I just want to be sure that I can remain aware, you know. I don't want to, I just want to be good at it.
It sounds like it's really important to you to be good at what you do.
Yes.
That's a very important aspect of your personality. You want to be respected and taken seriously. Maybe.
Well, I think those are all things that I do to myself. I do think that it's true that I want to be good at what I do, but it's from like this mental perception of what that means to be good. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I'm just working on that.
You're doing the work, Raydell. And you some insight to a little bit about you and your work. And thank you for that. That being said, we have about 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left in our session. How did it go for you today here in this office?
Good. I think that like I was able to connect a few dots, which is nice. It's always different to like think about it versus to like say it out loud, and it's different to like say it, and when given the option normally to like say it out loud or just like mull it over in my brain, I'm not gonna say it out loud, you know? I don't want to like generally burden people with my problems, so I'll figure it out myself.
All right.
But so it was nice to be able to say it, so thank you.
Good. Well, that brings our session to a close, and I'm really looking forward to hearing more next time we meet.
Woohoo.
All right.
Why don't you go ahead and stay sitting there?
End
All right.
scene.
What's that?
I said end scene.
Yeah.
Whew.
And scene 3, scene 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, good vibe, good solar, and really working on offering reflections and interpretations, so reflections and meanings that she could bounce off of many times, and then you would come back and correct or agree or clarify. So they did a good job of giving you something to bounce off of. And I think as Michelle picked up on, there were opportunities to, instead of staying with the wide view, of a little bit of a summary, frequent summaries. I think there were opportunities to settle down in one smaller place and go deeper. And I think that feeling piece, like not complex feelings that are part of a constellation of cause and effect and stuff, but
Like
simpler.
wild feeling.
Simpler. Yeah. I think you should experiment with other intros than the breathing. I think that's probably assuming things about your client that you might not know yet. If you had an established relationship, I think I can see doing that. There's something about I spend some time in the hippie community, and it drives me up a wall when somebody tries to assert that I need to take a deep breath. It's like
It's almost implying
yeah.
that they need that.
So I recognized that for time you had me fill this out while you said the next part, but I noticed as a client I wasn't fucking listening to what you were saying, like while I wrote
While
that,
you were
you know?
writing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just something I noticed.
We have some time constraints that I think are pretty tricky.
Right, yeah.
And I think we have to pick what we're going to prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
And, for a little while we probably need to prioritize doing those first 2 steps just with clarity and ease.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead and list out, instead of trying to sort of generalize the conditions under which you would break confidentiality, go ahead and list them.
Yeah, you weren't even going to say them.
I know.
And I don't think you said harming yourself or harming others.
I think you were. It seemed like you were trying to do something that sort of summarized all of those circumstances. And I would say, while we're getting the hang of it, go ahead and list all of them out
List
in
the
kind of a
specific
clunky,
actual things.
in kind of a clunky
And
way.
then,
Actually, I
like-
have that with me over here, actually.
And I think while you're discussing that form, this is a matter of sort of taking more time with it. I recognize the body language of like looking at the form while and that's a thing, you know, like to look at the form while you're explaining to her. In a way, it creates a little bit of like comfortable space for some people to be looking at the form rather than at her. But for now, I would say, let's explain that. Take the time and the space to explain that form while you're connecting with her
Yeah.
Yeah, I
visually.
will. So I agree that like that would be good because then you just know it, you know,
Right.
and that's something that like we all don't, or I mean, are working on, you know.
Yeah.
But I will say that when you like went through word for
Mhm.
word, that was helpful because I felt like then I didn't have like as a client I didn't have to read it
I
because we were
agree.
reading it together,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
it kind of
and that was good.
Created the rapport a little bit, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then I kind of
Yeah.
started to lose it with the disclosure.
Well, and I think that the body language I can imagine around that it could be really effective is that you do start out drawing her attention to the form and to the wording on the form. Say, see, you know, you're essentially saying, see, this is what it says here, and this
Yeah.
is what you would be signing.
Yeah.
And then earlier, look up and finish explaining it by looking at her. So either like
Yeah.
half or 3/4 of the way through describing that form, you stop looking at the form and you connect and you say, and this is something I would do because I am in training. I'm still in training, and I will destroy the video after a certain amount of time. So that's said face
And then
to
you
face.
can use that as a transition to like go into the
Right.
confidentiality thing, and then have to sign it.
And
You
we
know?
I think we just have to take up some time.
It was a rocky segue there, yeah.
Well, and I think you were trying to just like get it. There was a certain like efficiency.
Yeah, you were trying to
At
like
play?
make it informal or that's how I felt, and
yeah.
which I appreciated. But
Train ugly.
Train ugly.
Go ahead and just list it all out. Yeah, yeah.
we should move on.
Okay, let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so I'm the client now. I think there's something